Alright, Shepperton today. It's freezing. It's dark. Let's go. Okay, so it's a little bit difficult with the audio in there. I don't want it, they're in the next room and stuff, so I don't want to be talking all over there. They're watching their TV and stuff. So I'll have to come out here to chat to you about the job. Out here we have another trouble. We have the parakeets making a right racket this morning. I think they're starting to quieten down a little bit now, but they just kick off and start fighting, and then yeah, they make a horrendous noise. Anyway, so we've had a look around that little job, and you see we've got a little bit of variety of bits and pieces we've got to do in there. That's that whole complete room. Some of that is fresh plasterboard, and some of that is well, where they've taken paper off and it's taken some of the paint off and stuff. So we've got a little bit of an unstable surface in the sense of how suction is. So you're going to have painted areas which are going to be reasonably low suction, depending what sort of paint it is, and we're going to have very high suction where the paint has come off and we're back into bare plaster. The builder here is pretty good at prepping up. We are using PVA as our priming agent here, but he has given it 2 coats yesterday. Now you can use SBR or you can use PVA. They both pretty much do the same thing, just SBR tends to be a little bit stronger than PVA. And it's thinner, so some guys like it, some guys don't. Now PVA kind of doesn't kill all the suction, whereas SBR does kill a hell of a lot more suction. And if we was just coming in on a day, maybe SBR would be a good thing. But if you do have the opportunity to get something PVA'd up the night before, and it has a good 8 hours overnight to properly cure and really dry, it does help with killing the suction down quite a significant amount more than PVA in it this morning, and waiting for it to pull in and going over it when it's tacky. So the painted areas I'm not so worried about, but like the ceilings there, but where there's dry plaster, I am going to give that another coat of PVA today. What else is to say? Just that where there must have been an opening there where I just showed you where that scrim is. Now it's quite important that you get, obviously I've put 2 lots of scrim over there. I've come up to that crack, and then afterwards I've overlapped it from coming from the top, because if you don't get enough purchase of scrim on that, so we got it's coming up and it's kicking out a little bit, then it's going up again. We don't get enough purchase on this top bit, and we only have a little bit of scrim, it's going to flap out this way and stick out, yeah, so we don't want that. So I've got enough come up scrimmed up into it this way, then this one I've got enough purchase so it just comes down and passes that. So we don't want this top bit, we don't mind this bit flapping down into this little void here, because when we put the plaster on, it's going to kind of like go through that, and plus we got the scrim behind it on the actual plasterboard as well. So the last thing we want is that top vertical bit, the scrim, to be pulling out you can put staples in to try and stop that as well. I might PVA it since I've got other PVA out as well. What else was to talk about? Up the stairs there, sorry, on that hallway ceiling. Build of saying, well, should I put a bead on it, or should we use a stop bead on that nasty edge where there's paper on the wall? And I was saying, well, we'll probably be better off with a stop bead, because the edge looks fundamentally all right. It looks, you know, quite straight all the way down, but there's just a little bit of chop on it with some of the papers just like flared up a little bit going on the upright. So I said, well, if we get a stop bead, I can just protrude that stop bead over slightly, and then we'll plaster the underside of the ceiling. But then when it comes to actually doing the upright up the stairs there, you're probably going to be better off filling that with some dedicated filler, which is finer. The granules in it are smaller, and it doesn't contain so much water where it might, you know, breach the paper with the moisture. So you'll be able to fill that with a filling knife, and then once that's all dry, and you can sand that back. And filler is designed to be sanded back, whereas multi-finish or board finish or the plaster is not really designed to be sanded back, although you can, but you'll have a much harder time sanding that back. So with that said and done, a couple of little awkward bits in there, but yeah, pretty straightforward. So I'm not sure what else to record today. I've forgotten my tripod again. I've ordered another one. Right, so let's get in there and start cracking on. What am I going to do? I'm going to go and sort out the beads around that window. There's an opening into the kitchen there where you saw there's some plastic. We're not going to put beads on that because the reveals into that kitchen are fine. So we're just going to blend into the existing beads that are already there. I've been here a few times. I think I might have plastered that in the first place so a while ago. So there, we're not going to put beads on there, but we are going to put beads around that window in that. Is it a dining room? Looks like a dining room to me. Right, shall I stop going on and shall we get in there and start doing some work? We've got a couple of days to do this. It's quite generous. The worst thing about this job is the journey. It's Shepperton, and I'm coming from Bracknell, and actually on the M3 isn't too bad, but getting onto the M3 and off of the M3 is where the time is spent in traffic and stuff. So yeah, a little bit of an arduous journey, unless you leave really early in the morning. But then again, you know, these people, you're going to get here at like 6 in the morning and bang them up. I know some people that would do that. Jasper the Emperor, for one. He don't care. He'll be here at 5:30. Right. I am going to say it again. I am going to stop going on and on and on and nattering, and I'm going to get actually in there and actually do some work in just a moment. Okay, beads going up as per usual in a situation like this. Looks like it's probably sand cement with finish over the top. Staples aren't quite getting in all the way, but they're getting in just enough to get a purchase, and then we can persuade them home. Like so. Just to recap over what I was on about, this is the bit we don't want, this bit flanging out this way. We can deal with this here because it's going to push back, even if it's at a little bit of an angle. But this is going to need a bit of dubbing out. It's quite a bit of depth on that. I can't show you everything here, but look, we've got this. Rather than measure things, I like to hold things up. So if we hold things up like that, and of course I need free hands if I'm to snip this at the same time and hold the camera, but we can see exactly where we need to be there for this to meet up perfectly good. Now I can hold my finger on that, and then I can snip it with my tin snips to that point. I have snipped it, and look, we've cut it back at an angle, and I've also curled this round with the snips and kind of angled this round a little bit here, because quite often when you cut it with the snips it kind of causes a little bit of a pimple outwards. And of course we cut it back at an angle so that the beads don't actually overlap each other. Okay, so now we need to do the same for this side. So there we go, looking quite neat there, all the way round. And if you are making YouTube videos, it's probably a good idea to make an effort to remove these, otherwise the sticker police will be knocking on your door. Okay, so these are the bare bits of plaster that I was talking about earlier and bits of paint. Okay, so I'm just coming to put the stop bead up here, and look, we can just lip out just enough to cover this raggedy edge of paper. Now, I've got a bit of an issue here. There's a bulge. So when I'm trying to get my stop bead up here, sorry, you can see it's not coming down. I've tried to get it up as tight as I can, but this kind of needs prising down. But the problem is, if I've got the bead going all the way across there, I'm already flush up against this little profile of wood. But then when you get to here, you can see it's kind of curling away, and that will catch your eye. When you come down the stairs, you can see, look, it has already been made up a little bit. See, it's curling down a little bit away from the profile. So what I am going to do to remedy this, I'll just show you down here, these little bits of bead that I've cut already. I'm going to do it like this. And that's going to bring it down, because getting one behind it like that was too much. It was pulling it out. So I'm just going to pull it so it sits inside that little profile like so. You get this little double edge, and then it's going to regulate that all the way through so we don't get that last little bit curling around, because I need to pull the whole of the bead out. Right, so you can see exactly what I mean here. There we go. One sits on top of the other. Right, let's get that up there and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, I'm much happier now. That's much more regulated all the way across the length, rather than being up really, really tight there, and then really being able to see that curl around just to meet that one, which I can't do anything about. Just these beads can be a bit of an issue to getting them up, especially if you're trying to hard fix them, because you can only get a fix on one side, so they do have a tendency to flap around. But if you get good with your stapler, look, see I've got a hole available there and there, same as there. That's repeated every few inches, and I've been able to be cool enough to get them in there. Right, now, so look at this little bit here, curling round with a funny spade angle. What are we going to do about that? Formed the curve first, because you can't get a curve right on the very end, so we need lose a little bit here. Okay, now I've just held it up and I've marked here and here the snits by holding it into position to get the length that I need. So all we need to do is cut it off at this and at this. Close, which is the ceiling edge. I'm just going to close this bit down because I want it to taper out. Okay, I've just persuaded that little end to taper off a little bit. Right, let's go and stick it up. So there we go. Make sure it comes off and it's nice and square with this Nula post. And it follows the curve of the ceiling. I think we are just about in a position to start doing some plastering. Okay, that's going on. I need a haircut and to that point. Right, shall we make a dent in this room then? I'm going to knock up, as usual, bag and a half. Such a small room. We'll get the ceiling on, first of all. And I'm going to say we'll get some of this awkward on, probably the reveals, maybe this box, I don't know. And I want to start getting this to fill out as well, because we're going to have to bend this round a little bit. We're using 20x5 carbon steel trowel, which is over there on the windowsill. So that will do quite a good job of, you know, creating a distance and doubling that out. So yeah, it's going to eat a little bit of plaster, that is. So shall we just get on with it? Right, let's go. Okay, quite often when I say, you know, when you get a chance to prep the room up, which I have not done, when you prep the room up, you do get a chance to start learning the room. Now, I didn't do a lot of this grooming, he done most of it, and he PVA'd everything twice yesterday. So I didn't have the opportunity to start getting the feel of the room, and as a result, now I've started putting that ceiling on. It is very, very up and down. So you've got the chop, which may be an Arctic ceiling, be like the surface tension, and then you've got the swirl or something, haven't you, like the sea, yeah? The amount is going up and down. Now we've got quite a lot of swirl going on here, even though it's flat, and it's quite a short swirl as well. You might have a large swirl that you might need to bend, but these are quite short swirls. In some areas on the ceiling, it's really quite thick. I had the trowel loaded up in that 20 by 5, and the front and the back were putting plaster on the ceiling, but it was missing, and there wasn't enough plaster on the trowel to fill a gap, which was just through there. Which is one of the reasons I love using that trowel on jobs like this, because if you're using a much smaller, curved, stainless steel floppy trowel, you are going to roll with these. So that trowel really forces you to get things out and make a new level, okay, and make things flat right from an early start. Now, I haven't got to 4 pairs of hands or anything, so let me just show you what's going on here on this bit, because I had enough to get this wall on, and I thought I haven't got enough to get these reveals on, so I might just take this out. Now look at the depth we've got going on there. I might just show you. So look, we're pretty much touching at the top, and we're touching the bead down the bottom. Now look, as I come down, look at the depth we need to achieve. And because we're using such a large trowel, we can use the beads as our guide, and this becomes like a rule really, and because it's so rigid, it will work like a rule. Using a speed skim on something like this, especially the plastic ones, they're just going to roll with these contours as well. So, if you want to get things flat as well as smooth, you need a trowel like that, you really do. And funny enough, I'm going to be running a competition soon where you might be able to win one. Well, somebody will win one. That's definitely going to happen. I'm just waiting for it to arrive. And I've got a video actually going up tonight telling you all about a competition I'm going to be running in the next few days when the item actually turns up. Okay, so let's have a look at this now. There we go. And that's just been put on. You can see how wet it is by the way it's sticking to my finger. Look, it is stopping wet. Literally just put that on. And of course, we've got quite a bit of flatness to it. Already, there's no trowel marks. Now, if I just take my trowel here and just push that in there, we can see the depth we're at there. Okay, see the point? Look at that. That is very deep indeed. Let's have a good look in there, look. Look at that. And as if by magic it has gone. Okay, so let's get back over all this now. One thing as well that I didn't mention was we've got coving up, which is staying up, so we really need to concentrate on keeping this line nice and regulated against the profile of the coving, and by using a smaller wet brush, I can't see it, it's around here somewhere. By using a small wet brush, I'm able to do that, but I'm not going to do anything to it just yet because it's still soaking wet, so I can't run a brush around there because you're going to end up digging into your ceiling line that you've already created. Another thing that's happening that is a little bit concerning and I'd say unusual for such a surface is we've got quite a lot of air bubbles going on here. Rather large amount. I do hope that's not distemper underneath this paint. Time will tell. Okay, so we've given everything a good flattening and they're still there, but they have reduced down with the flattening. The little air bubbles, we can catch them in the light there. One thing you can do to combat air bubbles like that coming through, or any sagging, like bleed through if you're going over an Arctic's ceiling or whatever, you can just leave this first coat to pick up for a little bit. And if you're going to do that, then you really do want to get it in quite a good condition. You don't want to be leaving it with loads of trail marks to pick up and stuff, because you'll be back to the same sort of problem when you come and put your second coat on. So we've got this all nicely flattened in, where we're going to leave it alone. And this wall has been a good tester because it's one of the more porous walls, and it's holding back, so it's all right. So now I've got an indication how the rest of these walls will probably go. So if we had to leave this a little bit longer, what are we going to do to fill our time? Well, I know I said I might wait a little bit before I start cleaning off that coving. I'm not going to run a brush over it, there's something else we can do, because what's going to happen is obviously we're going to leave the ceiling for a little bit longer, which means the plaster which is on the face of that coving is going to be left a little bit longer, so it's going to be more troublesome to get off with a sponge. So I think it's probably a good idea to address this sooner rather than later. Now I've got a guitar fun for playing guitar, Now, quite often, it works really well for doing this. So what you do is just, obviously, I've got your nose thing going on. Get your finger here, okay, that's your little guide, and just get your thumb, and you can just drag your thumb across there and regulate this little line here. And that's what we're going to do all the way along. You can see. Just making that little pinch mark there, let's see. Right, we're going to do that, and then I will probably evaluate things. We're going to keep an eye on this ceiling because it might pull in all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know why it's wobbled up as much as it has done. So what I propose will happen is I'm going to let this go for a little bit, which means I'm going to let that wall go for a little bit. And I've got a bit of residue left over in the bucket, which is virtually nothing. So I'm going to wash that round, and I'm going to knock up a couple of hawkfalls, I think, and I'm going to start applying a layer to this area here in an effort to start bringing this out to a level so that we can get a full coat over this whole section here and, you know, roll it round a little bit so it doesn't notice. Right, that's what we're going to do. Right, I'm doing it. Okay, so we're looking pretty good in there. So what I'm going to do now is knock up around about a bag again, and we're going to put the second coat over that ceiling there. It's holding itself better, and hopefully those air bubbles won't bleed through to the second coat, the surface of it. So we're going to put a second coat on the ceiling and on that window wall, and we're going to knock up enough to put the first coat, if you like, over that wall that we've just dubbed out. Okay, so we have done exactly what I just said. So the ceiling has had its second coat, and this is how it's gone on. I've not flattened it in. And as you can see, it looks much more agreeable, which is a good indication that with that first coat, and us taking the time to flatten it out as well as we did with that 20x5 carbon steel trowel, it's really got it in quite a flat condition, yeah? So, because we know we've hardly got any trowel marks on it. Same as this wall over here, looking really good. You can see it is sticking to my fingers, so that's how fresh it is. And we have just enough to get the first coat over this complete wall. And look, that's how much I've got left in my bucket, which is literally nothing at all. I'm getting rather good at guessing how much I'm going to need. So, I'm going to take my small wet brush, which tapers out the end, although this is getting a little bit old now. I could do with a new one. Get them from Wix. They're great little wet brushes. I think they're just the Goldilocks size. Right, I'm going to get across the ceiling, tidy up the coping again as we did before, and start troweling things up, introducing a little bit of water to the situation. Okay, so where are we at now? Last time I spoke to you. So the ceiling is hanging around a little bit as air bubbles have disappeared. Well, we've got quite a lot of residue out of there. This wall over here, which was the last one I put on, has had its first wet trial, and this little bit up here and this wall have actually finalled. So the suction, the surface of these walls we've gone onto, it's actually accelerated the plaster. So even though this is the same step, this ceiling went on first, and then I put this on, and it was the same gauge. The ceiling is still considerably hanging. There's still a lot of residue coming out of it, and this is down. So I'm not sure why. I don't know. Who knows? But that is just what's happening. Hi guys, so there you go, that's all we did for today. So we kind of just like averaged out what we had to do. There's a little bit of prep. I didn't get there till 8 o'clock this morning. So tomorrow I'm planning on getting there a little bit earlier, and we kind of got 2 hits. So I balanced out. I didn't want to leave just 1 hit, you know, so we just took our time and sorted out that ceiling and those walls and the awkward bits and pieces. And hopefully tomorrow is going to be a quicker, easier time, apart from obviously that hallway ceiling which looks a little bit fiddly. So what I'll probably do is get in there first thing in the morning, finish off in that room, and then for the last set I'll hit that little awkward hallway ceiling, and then just have a slow pack up and get out of there. So, and that would be that one wrapped up. I'll probably do a video about it. So yeah, we have got competition coming up very, very soon. As soon as I get the item, I am going to be giving away the famous 20x5 carbon steel trowel, or one of them, a brand new one. I've ordered it already. The model number is MSX205, and it will be advertised as a cement finishing trowel, but I use one for setting. I'll go into one a little bit more about it, but for now, that's what's coming up. And I was talking about the competition earlier on in the video, and now I've edited the video, I'm talking about it now, and that video about the competition has now gone online already, so retrospectively I'm talking about it now. So yeah, there will be one coming up. So thanks for watching again, and I will see you on the next video, which will be tomorrow. So yeah, we'll do that. Alright guys, see you then, take it easy. You know what, whilst we're here, I just thought I'll show you around the garden room where I work. Look, this is what my wife Judy does. She does plants, and now they're getting out of control. Look at the size of them. Look at this thing growing all the way up here, look. Look, that's where it's growing from, here. It goes all the way up. We've had to put hooks up here, and it's going all the way around here, and then it's curling around here, and then it's coming out. Where's it coming out? It's coming out down here, look. So yeah, and she's also made us put up the autumn decorations. We have decorations for all seasons of the year. You happy with your decorations?
I love them more than life itself.
There's a few bits and pieces we've picked up from our travels. We do like a monkey in this place, or an ape. Some old skateboards down there. I think my skateboarding days are over. And there's another gorilla down there that Judy bought for me for my birthday. It's quite a big one, look at the size of him. Periodically he has some glasses or some like hats on as well. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you what it's like in there. Yeah. See you on the next video. Bye.